So today we're going to turn this gravity wagon, we're going to turn it into a feed bin so that we can buy bulk feed and hopefully save on our feed costs. So what we're going to do is we got some repairs to make, we got some holes to patch up, and then we're going to put some fresh paint on this thing, and we're going to build a roof on top of it, something to keep the rain from spoiling the feed. So I bought this at auction. Supposedly it's a John Deere running gear, which is the wheels, the wagon part, and then it's a Bushnell actual gravity bin on top of here. So I bought this at auction, I think for about $350 for this. And the only hole that I really see in it is it's got this hole right here where the grain comes out. So we've got to patch this. I haven't seen any other holes around. Now the door doesn't work. It's jammed up or something. So we may have to repair the door, fix it. And I mean, the paint's just terrible, right? So we're gonna knock some of that off. See if we can put some fresh paint on here. There may be a hole. I see another hole right here in this corner. So we're just gonna have to look around for some holes, see if we can patch everything that we find. And then the ladders on each side are pretty well shot. We may have to put some ladder rungs on here as well. So on the inside of the wagon, you can see there's actual stake pockets like you'd have on the side of a trailer. So you can stick a 2x4 down in there. So I think we'll be able to use that to help build our roof. But the first thing to do is we're gonna take a pressure washer to this, knock as much of that old paint off of there as possible. I think that's gonna make it easier to find any cracks that we need to weld or any holes we need to patch. All right, I got it all washed out and I am coated in paint chips. There's like paint chips all over me. And I probably should have wore my older hat instead of this new one. That's not as bad as I thought. But when I washed this off, I found several holes that I didn't even know about. And most of them are in the seams where the two pieces of metal came together. Obviously water had gotten underneath there and just slowly rusted that out. So this thing's actually in worse condition than I thought it was. All right, let's take a look at the damage. So right here you can see it's rusted all the way through. We have got rust all the way through on this corner, at least from about here it's all the way through. And it looks really bad most of the way up. Same thing on this corner. It's rusted pretty bad up where these two meet. So what I want to do is we're going to cut off, I've kind of scratched the line here. We're going to cut off right here and we're going to replace all this sheet metal here. Get that replaced first, and then I'm going to cut probably like a 3 or 4 inch wide strip out up this, and then put a patch in here and weld that in. And I'll probably do the same thing to this side. 2 or 3 inches, we'll cut the edge off, and then we'll lay a patch in here, weld it in. Now, the other things that I've found is this seam right here. You can see there's places where there's holes. They stitch welded this. You can see they welded it here. They've welded it here, there, and everywhere in between the welds, there's a gap. So we're gonna have to clean that up, and basically we're gonna have to kind of put a bead of weld in there to help seal that up. So there'll be some other little holes and stuff that need to be patched as well, but that's the big part of the job right there. So I think I've got all the repairs done to the gravity wagon. The door and the chute, I've still got to clean that up. The hand wheel on the door is completely locked up, so I'm gonna have to take that apart, see if I can get that fixed. But the wagon itself, I think I'm done working on that, and it was in way worse shape than I thought it was. So the repairs were more. I had a lot more repairs than I thought I was going to. I've spent 2 days making these repairs and cleaning up the inside of the gravity wagon. So let's go ahead, we'll take a look and we'll show you what we've done so far. So this wagon was rusted out right in front of the door, and then it was rusted out in the corners, and I think that's because debris would settle here and it would settle in the front, and that would just hold moisture and rot this out quicker. So you can see we put new metal in up to this transition right here, and this is 12 gauge metal, sheet metal. It seems to be the same as the wagon, same size. And we put it up this side to this transition. And then we had several places where you could see light through here, and we went ahead and stitched all those holes back up and tried to seal this up as best as possible. So this ladder here was missing a rung, so I just put a piece of angle on here so that I can climb inside of it if I need to. And then there was one hole, pretty good sized hole once I started cleaning it up, that I patched up. And this is the only things we did on the outside. Everything else we were able to fix from the inside. All right, I've got some Vansicle Primer that we're gonna put on first. This is what my local farm store carries. This is their Vansicle Premium, so hopefully this is good stuff. See if we can stir this up. Hard to tell how long it's been on shelf. Pretty thick at the bottom. I'm gonna pour this into something that I can handle with one hand. And I knew I'd make a mess. So the idea is I'm gonna crawl up through this hole, and then I'm gonna pull the spray gun inside. I'm gonna start from the top, work my way back down to this corner, and then hopefully I can slide out and just finish up around the doorway. So go ahead and get this started. All right, I got the inside of the gravity wagon all primered now. I did get the detail gun to spray better, but it still was not enough paint. It was very slow. It just doesn't put out very much. It's made for doing like small parts or small areas. I'm gonna have to get a regular spray gun so that this process is sped up a little bit, because this took about 3 times as long as it should. Is it just me or is it moving? It's moving. Oh. So I think this little thing right here is supposed to go in one of the cogs of this gear and maybe hold the door open, is what I'm thinking. And that might work if the gear was right there. I got a feeling it needs to be bent out. That looks like that works to hold the gear in place. Flip it that way. Free spins. Well guys, it's probably been 3 or 4 days now that I've been working on this one grain wagon here. I went ahead and I cleaned up the outside of it, and I've got the whole thing primered now, inside and out. I've got all the parts primered, cleaned up and primered, and I think we're finally ready to start putting on our final coat of paint. So I ended up buying some New Holland red. I know that wasn't the original color of this wagon, but I don't think it's really gonna matter that much. So I'm gonna go ahead. I did buy a different paint sprayer that's a little bit bigger than my other one, and it didn't make too big of a difference, but it is going on a little bit quicker. So let's go ahead and finish up the paint. So today is day 5 on this project, and today we're gonna finish it up. I am ready for this to be over with. So the wagon's all painted, all the parts are painted, it's ready to be put back together. But the first thing I wanna do is I wanna go ahead and start building the roof. So it had the stake pockets on the inside, so we're gonna build the roof off of that. We're gonna be just making it out of some 2x4 treated lumber. So let's go ahead and get started. So we got both end trusses made, so I'm gonna go ahead and see if we can test fit them. Now I know when I said treated lumber, there's some people that probably cringed when I said that, but that's gonna be up here, up high. It's not gonna be in contact with the feed. There it is, it's in. And I want this roof to be able to withstand the weather. There's gonna be times where this is gonna be empty and there isn't gonna be a tarp on there. We're in. Now we're gonna go ahead and build a header, or like a ridge beam. We're gonna cut a ridge beam to go across these two and tie them together. Okay. So we need to add some more rafters to this. And the problem is we got these chains that are going across to keep this from swelling or getting wider once it gets full. So I can't put a board all the way across right there using those stake pockets because of those chains. So I think all we're going to do is we're just going to build off of each stake pocket, put a rafter here and put rafters there, and we won't be able to put any in the middle right now. We'll just have to do that and we'll see how it works out. Okay, that's it. It's like we're getting an air show today while we're building this. They've been spraying our front field. I thought they already did it once. So we got our roof built on top of the grain wagon. So this is all we're gonna do, and we're just gonna take a tarp and lay it over this and then tie it around to the bottom. And that should shed water. Definitely comes in handy having 2 people on this job. Be able to raise the door, flip this arm over. Hey, and it locks it open. Look at that. That works. So for the door, we're just going to use lock nuts on this one so we can kind of leave it loose so it moves freely. Probably about there. Yeah. Got about a foot on this end. You've got about, that's probably pretty good. So since we're using this to store feed, we want to be able to fill a bucket up. You can see this is almost enough to fill 2 buckets. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a piece of metal across here to make the funnel tighter and be able to fill a bucket with it. So I made this the other day out of 14 gauge steel. Not the easiest stuff to bend, but I think that is going to work just fine to funnel in that bucket. So let's see if we can get this bolted on. All right, there we go. Got our funnel smaller. I think we're done. So after 5 days of work, we finally got this gravity wagon turned into feed storage, bulk feed storage. So we should be able to store our feed for the steers and our feed for the pigs. We can store them in a cart like this. And I think I'll be able to get maybe about 2 tons, about 4,000 pounds worth of feed in here. But I think for our first order, we're gonna probably just order around 1.5 tons, 3,000 pounds. We'll see how full it is and just kind of judge it from there. But I am glad that this is done and over with. So I bought this, I think I said I bought it for around $350, online auction, just from photos. Of course, it had debris up the corners on both sides, and that debris should have been a telltale sign right there. I should have known from the debris that was in it. So you couldn't see the rusted out holes. You couldn't see how bad it was from the pictures. So even though this was a good deal on price, this turned out to be a terrible deal in the end, because 5 days worth of work, all new paint and everything, this just ended up turning into way more labor. So I probably had at least $50 worth of paint in this. I've probably got another $50 worth of sheet metal and welding wire in this as well. So ended up costing me about $450 probably, not counting the tarp, and I don't know, 20 hours of labor in this. I mean, it's ridiculous. So this did not end up being a very good deal. So the lesson learned is pay the extra money for one that doesn't have a bunch of holes in it, that's not rotted all the way out, and you'll end up with a better feed wagon in the end, or a lot less work. So let me show you what a good deal actually looks like. So this, I just picked up last weekend, and this one is a good deal because it is in good shape. It's got very little holes in it. I think there is a few, they've already siliconed some of the holes. There's a few more I can put some silicone in. The door works the way it should, and on top of it, I don't know if you'll be able to see that, on top of it, it already has a roof system on top. So there's already metal welded across the top to be able to put a tarp on there. So on this one right here, I don't got to do anything but put a tarp on it. So I got this one for $500, which is an excellent deal for one that is in pretty good shape. So I know that there's some silicone, I think somewhere in this corner here, and there's a little bit of a hole. This is the only hole I think I've really found. And the cheap thing to do, instead of what I did with welding new plates in there, the cheap thing to do is just take silicone. Take silicone and seal this up and call it good, you know? So, so a few holes ain't necessarily a bad thing. You can do it a lot cheaper than the way I did that other one. But this is our 2 grain carts. They're gonna be feed carts. So we're gonna get a tarp. We got another tarp to put over the top of this one. So now we can get pig feed and steer feed and store at least 2 types of feed in bulk. So probably looking at doing that next weekend. So in the end, I think I definitely learned a lesson about buying cheap equipment. I've bought a lot of cheap auction equipment here, and I've had really good luck with being able to fix it up and get it to work. And this one, for sure, has definitely been not a good deal. Now I did, like I said, I could have put some silicone and just shoved silicone in the corners. It would have took quite a bit. And I could have sealed this up and still used it fairly cheaply. But I wanted to make it where it would last for several years. That way I can store feed in this for another 10 years. And that's really what I was trying to do here by trying to repaint it so that it doesn't rust anymore and try to replace some of that metal. So like normal, kind of going above and beyond or trying to overbuild something that I probably shouldn't. And I don't know, in the end, hopefully I'll use it for 10 years or more and it'll be well worth all the work. But right now it doesn't feel that way. But definitely happy to buy bulk feed. We're gonna be getting that here pretty soon. I'm gonna be ordering it from the mill down in St. Marie that we visited. We visited that feed mill, got to take a tour of the feed mill. They deliver, and I'm gonna see if I can have them to deliver bulk feed on one of my days off work and be able to get these filled up, and then we can really start feeding out the steers and finishing them off. And I need a ton of feed for all those pigs. Well guys, I think that's gonna be it for this video. 5 days to make this video. It has stopped me from doing any other videos. That's why there hasn't been any posted, is because of this wagon has just ate up all of my spare time. And definitely when it comes to buying equipment, I try to be cheap. I need to not be so cheap sometimes, right? It would have paid off if I would have just bought an $800 feed wagon that was in decent shape. I would have thrown a tarp on it and maybe I would have probably still had to build the roof and thrown a tarp on it, but I would have been way quicker and got it done in a day instead of 5 days. But that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.